The next day Ella went back to the Prime Minister's residence to visit the old man, walked to the Jushian building and packaged a bunch of meals to hang on the prince's account, because of the last experience of hanging onto the account. The Jushian building boss did not hesitate at all, the dishes let Ella take away. When the prince came to eat again when the checkout angry almost lifted the table. This time he didn't hold back and directly burst into the Seven Kings mansion in anger. Ella, get out of here. Big royal brother, rare guest quick please come in, quick please come in. Arya serves tea to His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. You less fake orangutan, what gives you the right to hang the meal on my account? Exasperated, I even forgot my self-proclaimed name. Lower your voice, how big a matter, don't let people hear the joke. You. He was surprisingly speechless. It is not just a few tables of food money, as to let the big brother and brother turn their faces. I return you just. He seemed to really make a big deal out of it. Why did he come so impulsively at that time? Right, the things she sent. Why did you give me those kid stuff, you know? Well, I hope that the great imperial brother will have a son early. What's wrong with that? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Big brother, ventured ask, why you have no children, Is it because you can't? Ella, you shameless woman, you. How can you ask such words? How is she shameless? She was concerned about him, okay? She was looking for the reason why she didn't have a child so that she could prescribe the right medicine. Why did she find Stephen blushing? No way, he's been through a lot of battles in the women's world. Could he still be shy? She seems to have discovered the big secret. The prince left the royal palace with an embarrassed face. Ella promised to send him the money, but the prince said no need. They are all his own brothers. John came back to hear about this matter is also very surprised. His royal brother usually belongs to the Iron Rooster. To him a little something are not willing to give up. A few tables of food money said don't. Ella in the future go out with enough silver, or hang on to this king's account. He asked Ella why to hang on the prince's account. Ella said the prince's wealth is not pitched for nothing. It turned out to be intentional to take advantage of Daughter-in-law is heard that the crown prince's royal brother is not good to himself, only to give himself out of anger. Right, heart so touched. In a moment, let the housekeeper send you the accounts of the royal household. Later, Ella housekeeper. It's fine, I'm idle. She wasn't polite at all. Ella is the mistress of the king's mansion. From now on, all matters in the backyard of the king's mansion will be under Ella's control. Including the matter of you taking a concubine? This king will not take a concubine. What about when your sweetheart comes back? Ella, don't worry, this king will place her well and won't cause you any trouble. He figured out that the attachment all along was just a responsibility, and that this woman was the one who really moved his heart. She is not afraid of people coming back to add to the blockage. She wants to make a quid pro quo with John. She allows him to take a concubine. John allows her to bring her son back. It's not really good to ask. Let's talk about it later. Ella took over all the business of the royal family. Don't look at John Gentle like a little sufferer. Under the hands of really capable people, all walks of life are involved. This gives Ella a chance to finally show off her skills. She put in the modern master of the business philosophy are told to the big guys to listen, let them to learn from, or reform, take the essence of the place, can implement the implementation of all the implementation. A few months of time the royal family's income rose extremely fast, which makes the Seven Kings house of the people of the admiration of Ella, truly take her as a female master. Ella, can't see that you still have a business mind. John was also admiring her and growing more and more fond of her. I'm also just a good businessman on paper, it's your men who are giving it a go. Ella is too modest. She wasn't being modest, she was telling the truth. I'm going out again, I'll be back in a while. Where is Ella going? To Daddy's manor. What's going on at the manor now? What could there be to do now in the season of no planting and no harvesting? Something very important. Be good and wait for me at home. Oh. John's eyes rolled without saying anything. Just like last time, John drove her and Arya out of the capital. Nothing happened on the first day, but at night when they stayed at the hotel, John whispered to her that someone was following them along the way. Change your route tomorrow, find a store with a back door, abandon the carriage and leave through the back door. The next day the carriage that had been going east was changed to go north and came to a dress store. The three men stopped the carriage and went into the store together and then didn't come out for a long time. An hour later a man came out of the store and drove the carriage away. Ella changed their clothes and left through the back door. After they left, a young man came in and asked the shopkeeper about the three people who had just come in, and the shopkeeper told him that the three of them had left through the back door a long time ago. When the young man chased out of the back door, where there is still the shadow of the three of them, can only return to the capital to resume orders. Ella three people and bought a carriage directly to the manor. To the manor let the milkmaid Natasha and son with maids moved away from the manor, changed the town to live, and instructed everyone on the manor not to divulge the matter of the young lady having a child. She did not want anyone to know about her son until she had taken care of John. But left the manor security is not guaranteed. Can only even Natasha's man a piece of moving away. There is a man at home safer. Several people stayed in the town for almost a month before returning to the capital. John, I'm back. He started shouting before he even reached his room. The underlings looked relieved. The princess was so lively and loved the king. John sat in his room. He had already received the news that she had arrived in the capital. He couldn't figure out what she was doing leaving the capital for so long in a few months' intervals. Why did she hide it from him? And also ditched the people he had sent to follow her. Surely she had some kind of ulterior motive. Don't be so serious all the time at such a young age. It affects the aesthetics. What exactly did you go for? Tell me the truth. Can I not tell? What the hell are you hiding from me, Ella? We're married, why don't you trust me? I'm just going to see a man who means a lot to me. A man? Yes, of course the son was a man. I know. John stood up and left the room. Hey, what do you mean? Why are you leaving before you finish your sentence? This guy, she didn't come back for so long without even making out with her, wooden man. John had someone look up the addresses of several of Prime Minister Charles's estates, and had someone go check to see if there was anything that made anyone suspicious. When the men who went to check it out don't return, Brian brings back news that shocks him. The woman he favored has been found. Just when he's ready to forget about it, she shows up, and what makes this difficult for John is that the woman gave him a child. How could he explain this to Ella? He had promised Ella that he would place the woman elsewhere, but she had given birth to her child, so he couldn't be too insensitive. Where's the person? Already brought back. That maid is a servant girl of the state uncle's house, secretly went out to watch the lanterns, came back a little abnormal. Then her master found out that she was pregnant, let her give birth to the child. Why didn't you guys find out before? The people from the state uncle's mansion said that they found her in a trance and locked her up. Show me. John followed Brian to the west wing and was surprised to find Ella here as well. What are you doing here? I've come to see your sweetheart. I heard she gave you a child. It's a good thing to check and make sure it's not a mistake. Ella didn't look unhappy at all, and even led the way into the room where the woman lived. The room was very clean, a young and beautiful woman holding a 7 or 8-month-old child sitting on the bed. John, you're lucky. Casually getting drunk and messing around can come across such an excellent product. She heard Brian say that the king didn't get a good look at the woman's face, indicating that it was a chaotic incident that happened at night, and she guessed that he must have gotten drunk and messed up and slept with someone, and then the girl hid. John was only looking for someone because he wanted to be responsible, definitely not any sweetheart. Slave girl meets the king's prince. The woman saw them come in and knelt on the ground holding the child. Get up, come see for sure it's her? John stared at the woman for a moment, shaking his head. What do you mean, no? I don't know. He couldn't see the face at all in the black light. Come see the child. How old is the child? Back to your highness, 8 months. Right? Asked John back. It should be right. What's your name? How old? Slave girl's name is Lily, 16 years old. Holy shit, John, you brutalized an underage girl. You guys talk about what happened that night, you first. Although she didn't mind John having a concubine, she couldn't get the wrong person. The slave girl doesn't remember. Will beating you up make you remember? Your highness, spare your life. Your highness, spare your life. Kneeling down again. The child, who was very quiet a moment ago, suddenly cried out, and the inquiry could only be terminated. Ella ordered for someone to serve well and left. John glanced at the woman and left as well. How do you find people? She still suspected a fake. Back to your highness, I found him from the state uncle's residence. John drank too much and ran to state uncle's house? Ella, aren't you angry? Her behavior disappointed him. Should I be angry? He suddenly felt so tired. He put this woman in his heart, and people still hide from him to see other men, and now that he has his own child back, she is not angry or jealous. What does it mean? She doesn't love herself at all. What Ella is thinking now is that if it is confirmed that the child is John's to stay, the mother of the child has to leave. He had a son with another woman. He had a son with another man. No complaints about each other. All happy. There are so many of these families in modern times. It's not surprising at all. But whether this woman was the one he had slept with or not remained to be investigated. Before Ella could investigate clearly, that woman had unexpectedly presented herself as the king's woman, and even brought the maid John had arranged for her to greet her in a serious manner. Sister Wangfei, concubine greets sister. Holy shit, who recognized your identity? Which onion are you yet to know? Still sister, look at that flirtatious look. Ella suspected that she wasn't a maid at all, but a prostitute out of a greenhouse. Ella was speechless, just looked at her squatting there, and did not let her get up. Finally, she couldn't hold on anymore and knelt on the ground. Sister Wangfei, where did concubine go wrong? Sister has to punish concubine like this. What is a concubine? This Wang Fei doesn't understand. But sister isn't called casually. I won't agree to John accepting you. At most I'll leave your son behind, and I still have to make sure that it's John's seed. Ella said coldly. Lily panicked when she heard that. If she was kicked out, she would have worked for nothing. Besides, she couldn't cause trouble for Ella, and the man wouldn't let her go. Your Highness, slave girl is wrong. Slave girl doesn't dare to do it again. Please spare the slave girl. Lily knelt on the ground and kowtowed vigorously one by one. Before long, a large red bag was knocked up on her head. Go back. Don't let me see you again. Ella was too lazy to care about her. John came back from the morning court and noticed that Ella was upset, thinking that she had finally reacted to the fact that she was going to be jealous. Ella, who pissed you off? You. What did the king do wrong? The relationship between men and women wasn't handled properly. Ella, I'm sorry. This king will have someone send her to a different house. Are you 100% sure she's the one you're looking for? Not sure, huh? Wait until you're sure. That night, Lily surprisingly had her maid come to ask the king to come over and said it was about the child. John looked at Ella in a difficult way, and Ella didn't even give him a look. In the end, John went there to hear what she had to say and would be back in a while. But he didn't come back for half a day, and Lily dragged him to cry and said that Ella was difficult for her, and that if she looked at the bag on her head, she would know how hateful the princess was. Also let the king send them both away. Son is her life. Death will not be separated. Crying John was distracted for a moment and tried to push her away. As soon as he bent down, a strange scent drilled into his nose and a sudden dizziness set in. Brian, Your Majesty, help the king back. Yes. Lily had worked for nothing again. Back in Ella's room, she was already asleep. Sleep also have to help him solve the current problem first. Ella was kissed by him to wake up, a little thought to understand what happened, kinda consciously know to come back. John in a daze aggravated his movements, familiar breath, familiar feeling, the same thing seems to have done countless times. The seventh prince unprecedentedly missed the morning court, opened his eyes to see the sleeping face of Ella. He doted on her, so this is the taste of happiness. Lily, who was angry that the design did not work, stayed up all night and turned into panda eyes the next day. Why didn't you go to the morning court? I was tired last night. Been counted, right? It's already the second time. The first time was also drugged? Yes. Tell me what the situation was. The crown prince's royal brother was instigated by the uncle of state to falsely accuse a few ministers of embezzlement and bribery. This king went to his study to find evidence of their correspondence and was secretly drugged with aphrodisiacs by him. On the way back to the king's residence in the Hatong next to Chang'an Street, I met a woman. At that time, this king was already on the verge of collapse, so I took her. The Hatong next to Chang'an Street on August 15th? She's going to have a good wisp. Ella, this king is looking for her, just want to be responsible, will not have feelings for her. This king loves you. She had figured out what was going on. Ella, trust me, I love you. Love me, then will you accept it when I tell you that I have a son? Don't you love me so much? You have a son for me to accept, but you won't accept me if I have a son. Love is talk, right? I know what to do. Ella, you were out so long to see your son? Who do you think to see? Where's the baby's father? That's not important. You accept us as a mother first. Okay, the king accepts. Who made me love you? Why does it sound so hard to say? Accepted. Then let's talk about the child's father. Oh! On the night of August 15th, I did something out of the ordinary for the first time. I secretly wore Aria's clothes and drilled out of the dog hole, wanting to see the lanterns. All the other children had a mother to lead them. I didn't, and I didn't want to go bother my father, so I went out alone. Walked to the Hatong next to Chang'an Street, met a man covered in blood, came up and rudely raped me then. Ella, that man was you? John exclaimed without waiting for her to finish. It was me, and I swore that if that man lived, I would beat the hell out of him. Ella, I'm sorry, my bad. Suddenly something else came to mind. Son, we have a son, right Ella? A son for both of us. John was incoherent with excitement. Her heart disease was gone. The love of her life was by his side, and there was their son. He suddenly felt that life was complete. Happiness came so suddenly, it came as a surprise to him. The daughter-in-law that flew to the fist also let him in time to defense. Ella looked at the poor little kind, did not have the heart to hit the second punch. John was as excited as a child early in the morning, asking questions. He had forgotten all about the punch. How did you find out you were pregnant? Where did you give birth? Who does your son look like, and where is he now? Why didn't you tell him earlier? Can you stop for a minute? Oh! The mouth subsided. The hands didn't stay idle, touching her breasts for a while, touching her stomach for a while. Then it started again. Did it hurt when you had the baby? Did you breastfeed him? You can get up now. Good. So are we going to pick up our son today? Keep it quiet for now. There's another one in the compartment. I know. That's a trap for State Uncle. That woman is a spy he arranged to deal with State Uncle. I have my own plans. Let's hurry up and pick up our son. I want to see him. She hadn't slept well since last night, and early in the morning she let him ramble on sleepy again. How can Ella sleep? Is she pregnant again? Huh. Ella just couldn't hold back the cute baby. It's not impossible. Really? Am I too good? Ella suddenly felt that this was a fool. They say that people in love have zero IQ. It's really true. Since John was drugged by the prince in the first place, this fake woman must have been his doing. Ella wrote another letter and sent it to the crown prince with a different person, asking him to get together at the gathering of immortals. Prince with apprehensive and twisted mood to come to the appointment. He did not know why he came back. Obviously let this woman angry to death, but also come up to find abuse. This is not a crime? What are you looking for me again? Looking again? That being said, big imperial brother, I'll just ask you out this one time, okay? Hurry up and say what's going on. It's not good for people to know that you and I met. So Big Brother is quite concerned about his reputation. I thought you didn't want to lose face. Ella, how do you talk? Aren't you afraid I'll kill you? A country's crown prince who wants to kill his own people at the drop of a hat, is this a sign that the crown prince wants face? Or is it a sign of wanting fame? What the hell are you doing? Sit down, let's talk calmly. Stephen sat down several times reluctantly, and also turned his face to the side not to look at her. I don't know much about the secret struggles in the imperial court, but I also know that since ancient times, ministers in the imperial court have always been in conflict, and this political disagreement is also common. But there has to be a person who balances the relationship between them, right? This person should be the emperor's right. The crown prince is the future emperor. Your highness think you do? For the king when the world first worry and worry after the world's happiness and joy, only then called a bright king. Ella believed that His Highness is not a person who kills innocents indiscriminately, otherwise those who do not agree with His Highness' political views would not be in prison, but in Hades. His Highness is the crown prince of a country. He should have the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. He shouldn't be instigated by a villain to do something absurd and underhanded. Are you here to teach me how to behave? Ella, who do you think you are? A brazen woman who married the 7th imperial brother so she can come and teach me a lesson. You simply don't know the heights of heaven. He was almost sensitized by this woman. A brazen woman would still lecture others. It must have been taught by Charles. I'll concede if you call me brazen. After all, I did go that route the first few times. So do you think I have a point about what I said today? Even if you're right, it's not your turn to indoctrinate me. Confucius said that all three of us must be my teacher. What are you, an absurd and shameless prince bullshitting about? Who are you calling absurd and shameless? Are you saying that others can't stand up to you? You are bold. That's right. Auntie does have a lot of guts. You come. If you have the ability, don't call for help. What kind of ability is it to call for help? Angry Stephen pointed at her and shivered. He knew that coming to see this woman would not be good. No one had ever dared to treat him like this when he grew up. Regardless of the principle, he must export his anger. Ella, you asked for it. Don't think you're lawless just because I don't hit women. The prince's subordinate was guarding the stairway to keep people from going up to the second floor, and only vaguely heard arguing in the room, and then there was a clatter of tables, chairs, and benches, and then a muffled grunt as if someone was being beaten. The subordinate eyes to watch the nose to watch the heart, did not hear, he did not know anything. Although the prince is ridiculous and pampered a little, this personally hit the woman's matter is also too shameless, a little bit of it. What's more, it's still his own sister-in-law. This 7 Wang Fei in the end did something to make the prince angry, lost control. Really quite admirable. In the room Stephen was being ridden by Ella. His face was red and swollen, and his eyes were open, gasping for air. Convinced? Ella swung her fist at his face. You shameless woman, I'm going to execute your 9 clans. I'm married to John. The 9 clans include you. Execute yourself first. You get up. If you can't beat them, you use your power to oppress them. Who is the most shameless? You get up first. How can this woman be so shameless? Hit him, just hit him. Riding him for what? But also the whole body are sitting on him. This big summer, the 2 tossed half a day, clothing thin and half wet, make him are embarrassed to forget the pain. You convinced Auntie will spare you? I'm convinced. I've never seen you so shameless, woman. Convinced is fine. Get up and talk properly. Ella stood up and reached out to pull him up as well. Stephen reached out and tugged at his wrinkled shirt, patted the dust on his body, and restored his noble image of a prince, if not his pig-headed face. Proudly, he sat down in the only chair that hadn't fallen over. Ella picked up the chair and sat down, her face facing him. Compared to Stephen's mess, Ella's clothes were just a little dirty and her hair was a little loose, and it didn't seem to be that great. Say you're shameless and you still flip out. Is it you who drugged John? They are all born from the same root. They are too anxious for each other. Me, who made him always against me. Being beaten up, the self-proclaimed name was also changed. To be able to use that underhanded medicine shows that you are a shameless person. That woman in the 7th King's mansion was also found by you, right? Isn't that the woman that old Seven favors? What's it got to do with me? When he first heard about this matter, he was jealous as hell, favoring her once to have a son. How come that person wasn't him? Could it be that you didn't arrange it? Couldn't it be that Lao Chi slept with her? The two looked at each other with suspicious eyes. Is the pregnancy wrong? That woman is from the state uncle's mansion. It's your uncle who arranged it, even if it's not you. Stephen, grow a little bit of heart. Don't be sold and still help count the money. Rarely Stephen did not talk back, although this woman is hateful, but what she said is to the point. Uncle, these years he has done a lot of things he is not accustomed to. Every time he mentioned the mother of the queen scolded his own conscience. Said that if there is no uncle he is still unknown to the crown prince of who is it? He can only turn a blind eye as long as it is not too much with him. He's so many women but no heir. He is also very worried about the father will change his mind, so cannot directly offend uncle, but also rely on him to support in the court. He is the crown prince of a country, but he can't even compare to a small woman who can see things through. Ella looked at the tangled crown prince and directly added another fire. John won't fight for your throne. The other royals don't have that ability. You don't think that the only ones who covet that position are your brothers? You have to distinguish who you are close to. Will they have other plans for you like this? How do you know? Is it Prime Minister Charles who told you that? Ella shook her head. The authorities are confused by the bystanders. Other people's heart door clear also dare not say to you. On your grumpy temper still do not send people to the big prison. Why are you not afraid of me? I think you are not a bad person. Will not just indiscriminately kill innocent people. Stephen surprisingly shyly bowed his head and did not say anything. No one has ever said this to him. Those people in front of him are trembling and scared to death. So that child isn't 7th Imperial brothers? Of course not. I suspect that woman is a greenhouse whore. The means of seducing people is a set. Did she seduce old Seven? Stephen asked eagerly. Why does Ella feel as if he's gloating? How can that be? I'll beat the hell out of him if he dares to browbeat anyone else. Stephen hooked his lips. His cheeks were raw. It was only then that he remembered the beating he had just received. If Lao Chi really messed with her, he would definitely be in for a treat. Thinking about it, he felt his heart balanced. Why don't you have an heir? Didn't you get the eunuch to look at it? What is there to be embarrassed about? If there is a disease, then cure it. If it is not a disease, or someone has done something. I know. What do you mean by I know? Did you see the doctor or not? She felt that the Xia family brothers were quite similar sometimes, both very childish and cute. You go back and think about it. Don't be swayed by others when you do things in the future. I'm sorry, I hit too hard. Looking at Stephen's red and swollen face, she was a little overjoyed. Stephen didn't say anything. No one beat him up for so many years. It turns out that getting beaten up feels pretty good. He seems to have a masochistic tendency. It's okay, you can go home. You go first. You can cover your face, go home and put cool water on it. You'll be fine tomorrow. Got it. Ella went home, and the prince didn't leave the tavern until it was dark or jumped out the back window. His subordinate watched Ella leave intact. Confused for a long time, went to knock on the crown prince's door. The crown prince instructed him to fetch some cool water and then stayed hidden in his room. It wasn't until the next day when he saw the crown prince's bruised and swollen face that he realized that the banging in the room yesterday was the crown prince getting beaten up. The 7th prince consort was mighty, an idol he worshipped. The crown prince went to the morning court with the bruises that hadn't dissipated yet and ran into a beaming John, who seemed to have a bit of a bruise on his face as well. Good morning, great imperial brother. Today's mood is good. Looking at anyone is smooth. Just how does this face of the big imperial brother look? Should be his daughter-in-law beat him up. So many women each with a punch is enough for him to drink a pot, or marry a daughter-in-law is good. Stephen said in his heart, it is true that the man of his own family's hand is light, beating himself to death. The two brothers each had their own thoughts after the morning court was called by the emperor to the imperial study. Son servant see Father Emperor. Farewell. What's wrong with the two of you? It's just a matter of fighting openly and secretly on weekdays, but to have gotten yourselves into this state, it's really a disgrace to the royal face. Father Emperor, you misunderstood. We didn't fight. Didn't fight? How did you become like this at the same time? My son-in-law is letting his daughter-in-law fight. John answered first. What about you? My son-in-law also let his daughter-in-law beat him. Both father and son were baffled at the same time. John didn't know that Ella beat up the prince. What did Ella beat you for? Yes, why did Lao Chi's daughter-in-law beat you? Father, my son was wrong. Stephen flung himself on his knees. My son has been provoked by villains over the years and has done many ridiculous things, and after being woken up by a beating from the 7th sister-in-law, I won't make my father angry in the future. John and the emperor froze. This plot is too surprising. Ella beat up the crown prince and woke him up? You get up first, I still don't get it. Father, don't worry. My son knows right from wrong, knows what to do and what not to do. That's good, that's good. As long as you brothers are of one mind, I'm relieved. How does this matter sound so mysterious? The emperor didn't figure it out all night. John returned to the royal residence and asked Ella what happened to the crown prince's face. I punched him. Why did Ella punch him? Because he owes a beating. That's also true. It seems like the royal brother has been reformed by you beating him up. He does owe a beating. How do you know he's reformed? He promised in front of Father Emperor that he would do things properly in the future and not make Father Emperor angry. Taking a stand so quickly, what a sulky person. Inside the state uncle's residence, the crown prince visited. Uncle, was that woman arranged by you? The state uncle knew the most about what he did and was mostly in on it. What is your highness talking about? The old minister doesn't know. Don't pretend. You know the most about this matter. If I didn't do it, surely you did. That was clearly a scourge planted by the seventh prince when he was in a state of delirium. How can you slander the old minister? Fine. Don't admit it right. Look at my face being punched by that bitch. If uncle gets punched one day, don't say I didn't warn you. He didn't want to flip out on his uncle all at once. He wanted to gradually take back the power that was his. Not long after, the embezzlement case from a year ago was reopened, and due to lack of evidence, those officials were acquitted. And the veteran ministers who had been in prison for more than a year went to the House of the Seven Kings to thank John after they were released from prison. Because John had previously fought hard with the crown prince to bail them out at the time of the accident, it was assumed that this pardon must have been done by the seventh prince as well. Your lords don't need to thank this king. In fact, this time it is the big royal brother who repented. Your highness doesn't have to excuse that villain. Your highness is kind-hearted and generous. Only then should you be the one in the center court. All of you adults don't want to talk nonsense. This king has never had this intention. Lords, my husband is right. It's really that crown prince who has a clear conscience. Ella came in from outside just in time to hear their words of not believing that the crown prince could change for the better. The old minister has met the crown princess. That crown prince did too many bad things, went out at night, and let some chivalrous warrior beat his face to death, then went home and changed his ways to be a new man. Is there such a thing in the world? It's true, I'm sure of it. Ella realized that people didn't believe her and held out her palm for reassurance. That's really great. God bless my great summer dynasty. Yes, yes, yes. The prodigal son returns to his senses. Only his royal highness can change his ways is a blessing for the great Xia kingdom. Heavenly blessing. Then she, Ella, is that heaven. Ella went back to the prime minister's residence to visit her old dad, who told her that John had left, saying that he was going back to his hometown to do some business, and that there were some things that had to be resolved sooner or later. This is what Fu left for you. Charles held out a wooden box to her. She opened it to see it was a thick martial arts book with internal heart techniques and martial arts moves. Ella opened it and was captivated by the techniques inside, not looking up for half a day. Grr, you learned martial arts from Afu? Yes, yes. Pops, I've already worshipped John as my master. What's going on in Master's family? Do you need help? Afu is strong in martial arts. He should be fine. Besides, this time he went back to deal with the disputes in the family in the name of the firstborn. If there are no surprises, he will be the head of the family in this generation. Family head? How lofty. I just feel that Master is a man with a story. Someone must have broken his heart back then, which made him leave home and not return home for several years. Did you punch the crown prince in the face? Today the emperor told him that Ella punched the crown prince. He still didn't believe it. It would be possible if she learned martial arts from Afu. Yes, isn't my daughter awesome, beating the crown prince into a pig's head in a few blows. This girl of yours is also too bold, not afraid that he will cut off your head? Not afraid, I told him. If you have the guts, don't ask for help. Let's fight one-on-one. Then he took the bait. Do you think he's childish? Ha 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 ha. Charles looked at her and didn't say anything for half a day. Pops, why so serious? I think the childish one is you. What kind of person is the Prince Ayu also dare to fight you? Hey. He is not reasonable, I beat him. If he continues to act recklessly, I still beat him. Also beat. Okay, I won't beat up again. Ella before leaving to give the old man a stack of silver tickets. The old man will not do business. Weekdays are still old and good, and will not be stingy point to spend money. The family base are given to her to accompany the dowry. She is really afraid of the prime minister's house cannot uncover the pot. In fact, her worry is redundant. Charles is very thick-skinned. No money in front of the emperor crying poor. The emperor casually reward point is enough for him to eat a few months. Ella has just returned to the royal residence to guard the compartment of the guards told her that Mrs. Lily crying non-stop, must see the king. There's still the strength to cry. 3 days do not give her food. What, you have an opinion? My subordinate does not dare. First hang her out to dry. When she despairs in her heart she will tell the truth. When it is time to directly bring down the uncle of state is not fast. If simply this point of wrongdoing and then the empress steps in to bail him out, I'm afraid I can't bring him down. Then I can only put some more charges on him, and still make it so that the empress can't intervene. This has to be planned properly. Let a person pretend to be a royal heir to the big say. The crime is not small, but if he played a trick and did not recognize Lily as his instructions, this crime is not good to determine. If let the crown prince to testify against him is good. The crown prince will? That is his own uncle. The queen will not be forced to die. Although the crown prince is a bit of an asshole, he is still filial to the empress. Oops. Headache. What's wrong with Ella? Is she not feeling well? John came in just in time to see Ella scratching her head. I was thinking about how to bring that little old man down. Which little old man? That dry old man, Uncle Coke. It is indeed a dry old man. My daughter-in-law described it so well. Ella, as long as Lily tells the truth, he won't be able to turn over. That's all it takes to do him in? As long as father has the will to do him in, a little is enough. Right? Why didn't I think of that? This is a time when imperial power is greater than heaven. Her heart was finally put into her stomach, and she could sleep peacefully, but someone wouldn't let her sleep. Ella, I love you. Ella, where's your soul calling? I just want to. If you want to, just do it. What are you screaming for? There's no doubt that she didn't sleep well again this night. Ella the next day to sleep until the sunrise, just freshened up yet to eat it, but received Stephen's invitation to go to the gathering of immortals. It just so happens that going there to eat also does not have to spend money. Ella took her maid Aria and went to the restaurant. Still in the original room, entering the room Stephen was sitting there alone. I didn't eat breakfast. Ask for some food for me. The crown prince ordered, the person outside the door answered, and went to the back kitchen. Since no one was eating at this time of the day, he had to have the chef burn the fire and make it now. Big Emperor brother has asked me out for something, right? I asked the eunuch to look at it. And then? The eunuch said that I might be sterile because I've been eating something bad for my body for a long time, which would result in sterility. Which imperial doctor saw it? The head of the imperial hospital. His medical skills are the best in the Great Xia Kingdom. Has he seen it before? The house doctor has seen it and said that there is nothing wrong with my body. Who made you those things you eat that affect fertility? The concubines in the mansion. Who are those concubines? They are all. Stephen suddenly startled. You don't have to say it, I understand.
Andrew sighed, wanting to hug her but not daring to. What I just said is something I've thought long and hard about, and I'm at an age where I'm choosing a wife, and I like you a lot, and I hope you'll accept me. Evelyn was a little uncomfortable. The uncomfortableness was a shift in status. It was as if the high school headmaster had confessed his love for her all of a sudden. It felt weird. She chimed in, feeling a little cold again. I know. Thanks for liking me. I'll try to like you too. Andrew frowned with tenderness. So can I hug you? Why ask for this kind of thing? Wouldn't it be better to just do it? So how could she be embarrassed to answer? Seeing the discomfort on her face, Andrew reached out and held her in his arms. Don't be afraid of the change of scenery. Zach and I will always be there for you to pick out your escort. And when I go back and finish my work, I'll be with you exclusively from now on, okay? Evelyn clutched his collar in her hand and retorted. No need. You can just busy yourself with your work. It's okay on my side. Andrew hoarsely said. I know, but I want to be with you all the time. Oh my God, who wouldn't get confused hearing that love talk? How is he so good at it? Evelyn rubbed her face against his chest. You're on your own. President Chen went back and reported to the Federation about Evelyn being a 9th-rank noblewoman, and the Federation side quickly gave a response. Regarding the selection of the guards, it would be held 3 days later, and President Chen even wanted to hurry it up even more. However, the notification was sent out, and it would take a few days before the entire interstellar world would know that they had a 9th-ranked noblewoman to be selected for the guards. At the same time, the news of a 9th-ranked noblewoman choosing a husband in half a year also spread amongst the nobles. Those who had men of the right age in their families were all grabbing them back and cultivating them properly. The Liu family, Chung family, and Zhang family even directly called back their sons who were attending military school. For no other reason, after learning that there was a new 9th-ranked noblewoman, Evelyn's biography had already been investigated by this group of people. Learning that she had previously attended the Federal Military Academy, the parents of several students in the same dormitory only felt that the pie in the sky had struck their own family, as the saying goes. The nearer the water, the better the moon. It was rumored that the noblewoman had a 4th-order civilian beside her who was her classmate in the same dormitory. Liu family. Father Liu. No matter what method you use, you must select your noble daughter's guards in 3 days. William smiled bitterly. You think we don't want to? Robert, who was habitually short on words, didn't answer. Father Liu. A commoner can be looked upon by your daughter. Are you guys any worse than him? William impatiently replied. Not worse than him, but Evelyn likes him. Then why doesn't she like you guys? Look for the problems that exist in yourself. A 9th-ranked noblewoman hasn't appeared for a long time. If you all can't choose one, don't come back home in the future. I don't have a son as useless as you. Chung family. Chung father spat around Daniel. Why are you such a useless child? Even that commoner can be chosen, and you're also the roommate of a noblewoman. How come you're useless? Daniel was already annoyed by this matter, and when he heard his dad even spit on him, he was instantly enraged. How do I know what's wrong with me? She just doesn't like me, what can I do? Cheng's father sighed. You have to work hard, 3 days from now is when she selects her guards. With your rank, you still can't reach her husband. Think about the probability that the children born to noble women will also have purification abilities and top-level psychic abilities. Don't you want to have an excellent child in the future? Daniel huffed and replied, I know. I'm going to train. Such scenes played out in countless nobles. The closer the selection of Evelyn's guards was, the more everyone indulged in training, only hoping to perform better on the field. During these 3 days, Evelyn wasn't idle either. She went out the next day and went to the office building. A huge sign stood up across the lobby, filled with directories to be purified. She walked up to the window and asked, Hello, how do I take a purification mission? The staff was very nice, and once they looked up and saw that she was a newly minted 9th-rank noblewoman, they were close to hand-holding her and teaching her how to take a mission. Light brain binding personal information, Evelyn tried to accept 3 purification quests. She didn't choose to accept too many at once. After all, when she tried to purify Daniel and the others before, she had to get off her feet in 3 or 4. Arriving at her own exclusive office, Zach was off to the side, directing several of the men who had come to be purified to line up in order. The first man to enter the room had a country face, and at first sight of such a good-looking noblewoman, 2 blushes rose to his dark skin. You? Hello, my name is Wang Hao, serving in the 14th Legion. Evelyn raised her head and smiled at him. Don't be nervous. Come on, extend your hand. He sits down respectfully and extends his right hand. Evelyn uses her internal force to detect that Wang Hao has much more radiation in his body than Daniel and the others. Strictly speaking, in fact, Daniel's and their radiation values hadn't reached the critical point at all, and it didn't matter much if they weren't purified. But Wang Hao's body was almost entirely filled with black spots, and if he delayed for a few more months, then he would probably become a mutant. Evelyn didn't think too much about it, and maneuvered her internal force to purify all the radiation in his body. This one person topped the internal force of purifying 2 people before. After Wang Hao was purified and felt the radiation in his body himself, he reddened his eyes. Thank you. Thank you. In the past, spending exorbitant credits would only purify 1 or 20 radiations, and not 2 years later, he still had to spend credits to make an appointment to queue up. The radiation in his body was already approaching 95. Unexpectedly spending 1 credit point, Evelyn directly purified all the radiation. According to this, he wouldn't need to wait in line for another appointment for at least 10 years. The credits were a small matter, but it was troublesome to wait in line for an appointment, and one could easily have to wait for half a year. Evelyn smiled. You spent credits for me to purify for you. It's all due. There's nothing to thank you for. Wang Hao was even more shocked. In that previous purification, those noblewomen weren't high and mighty. No one ever said that it was proper for them to spend credits to purify. He stood up and respectfully bowed to her. Really, thank you. Can we add a light brain? You can call me for any trouble in the future. He hesitated but still uttered this request before those noblewomen didn't bother to add their light brain numbers. But Wang Hao just felt that Evelyn was different from them. Evelyn guffawed. Of course. As the saying goes, one more friend is one more way, and it's not like there's a limit to how many friends that light brain can add. The 2 exchanged their light brain numbers, and Wang Hao transferred a large amount of credits to her, far more than the original price, and he blushed as he thanked her and left. The federal law stipulated that all the credits paid by the person who needed to be purified went to your daughter personally. It was still wonderful to Evelyn's heart that she was earning so much money at once. She would need a large sum of money to raise her children in the future. The next thin man with glasses came in. The same process as Wang Hao. Evelyn completed the purification for him and thanked him again before leaving. The radiation of 2 people was as much as purifying 4 people in the dormitory before. Evelyn's face was a bit pale, and her physical strength had decreased after the rapid loss of internal energy. Zach worriedly spoke. Should we let the remaining 1 go back first? Why don't you rest and continue tomorrow? Evelyn shook her head. No, I'll just rest for a few minutes. She had seen the dense list of people waiting to be purified in the office lobby today, and if she purified 1 more person would hopefully survive. While Evelyn considered herself no saintly mother, she couldn't look at so many innocent lives and do nothing. It was too difficult for men in this world. Not only could they not get wives, but they also had to endure the pain caused by radiation day and night. And there were so few noble women who could purify the radiation that many of them had been waiting in line for most of the year before their turn came. If the purification was not completed in the limited time, they would turn into mutant species. Then one could only recognize their own bad luck. After resting for a moment and recovering most of her internal energy, she finished purifying for the 3rd man. The morning was also over. Knowing that she didn't like the cafeteria, So Andrew bought the ingredients in the morning and had her purified and made lunch at a pinch. She and Zach could have a hot meal as soon as they got home. Andrew was a novice at cooking, but he was a good learner and followed every step strictly as taught on the Star Network. It did allow him to make a decent meal. Let's pick up a few more purification people this afternoon, Evelyn commanded without looking up from her meal. Zach frowned. Sure you don't need a break? No. The president's office. Listening to the news from the secretary, President Chun was stunned. She really purified 10 people in one day? The noble mating camp never limited how many purification orders the noblewomen would take, but the most diligent ones would only purify 3 or 4 people a day, and it was that 9th-ranked noblewoman from the capital planet who wouldn't exceed 5 a day. This is a treasure that the noblewoman camp has found, a few older noblewomen exclaimed. 3 days passed by in a hurry, and behind her Evelyn restrained herself from purifying the entirety of the radiation for everyone, instead choosing to go for volume. Each man, she tried to purify the radiation to below 60, so that she would have the energy to purify more men in a day. Over the past 3 days, she had purified a minimum of 20 to 30 men each day. Soon it was time for her to choose her guards. The way to select the guards is by competition. There are 3 levels in total. According to Evelyn's status level, the guards would choose the top 50 through a competition. She would then personally select the 9 captains of the guards herself. These 9 captains would then choose their own teammates, 10 from each group. The entire escort army totaled 90 people. Early in the morning, Evelyn followed Andrew and Zach to the selection ground of the noble girl camp. There was a black crowd of people. Besides the nobles and commoners, the students of the military academy were the ones who came the most. Among them, there were many familiar faces that she had met in the military school. Perhaps they all felt that they had met her and had the friendship of fellow students, so they all came. Those in the same dormitory also came. Daniel, William, Robert, Richard, Samuel, Kevin. Everyone was fist-pumping and stretching on the training ground. Evelyn stared at them carefully for a long time. Among them Daniel, Richard and Robert's powers had already risen to the 5th level. Zach, who was beside her, had also risen up the day before yesterday. Everyone had been working hard for her in private. Seeing her personally come over to watch, everyone looked at her with fluttering eyes, very embarrassed. This time, there were also a lot of 6th and 7th ranked alien. These were the ones who had participated in the guard selection many times before and didn't get selected. Don't underestimate the fact that there are more men than women in the interstellar era. As long as there was a slight chance, everyone would not let go. Further up, the 8th and 9th ranked adepts were the best of the nobles, and they would directly participate in the selection of her husband in half a year's time, and would not come to participate in the selection of the guards. When the time came, President Chin's husband, Chu Zhu, was the one who was specifically in charge of the escort army selection matters. He held an instrument in his hand and first brushed down the 2nd and 3rd order ones. These were the ones who came to make up the numbers. It was fine to match a 1st or 2nd order noblewoman, but a 9th order noblewoman was a bit underqualified. Those who were brushed down reluctantly looked back at her, and eventually left with heavy feet. Immediately, half of the people were left on the field. Then came the 1st level, a combat skills competition. Weapons were placed all over in front of everyone, and they needed to skillfully assemble all the firearms, then hit the living targets in front of them, and advance if they completed all the tasks within the stipulated time. At Chi's command, everyone flew into action. Evelyn watched with interest the movements of their hands, assembling the firearms in a hurry, those high-tech guns she had never seen before. Soon the first person to complete the task appeared. It was a 7th-order psychic. I think his name was Yanni. Then came the 2nd and the 3rd. Daniel, Robert, and Richard were also in the top 10. Those who didn't finish within the stipulated time were all eliminated, which left another part of the population missing. The 2nd level was motorized driving training, considering that the escort girls needed to frequently drive various means of transportation, so this skill selection was specially launched. The main thing was that the members of the escort army had to be skilled in driving hover cars and flying ships, and the weapons on top of the vehicles had to know how to do it as well. This one was simpler than the first, and everyone basically completed the task well. There were still about 200 to 300 people on the field. The last task was infiltration skill training. It was also the hardest of the 3 selections. Parachuting, climbing, traversing bombing zones, recognizing iconograms, and long-distance cross-country marching. The last program would be the key to being able to join the Evelyn Guard, and this time there would be no timing. The top 50 would advance. All could use their powers to interfere with their opponents. Evelyn sat high up on the viewing platform with an endless view below. Rumble, the flying ship stalled overhead, blowing a gale. Andrew draped a jacket over her. The doors of the ship opened, and like dumplings, one by one, they jumped down against the wind. Parachutes opened, and everyone landed. The first thing in front of them was a small mountain to climb up with their bare hands. At this moment, all sorts of different abilities came into play. Seeing her happy, Zach took out some snacks and drinks and handed them to her. Evelyn's eyes lit up. there were actually melon seeds. This was the perfect scene to get high on melon seeds. Zach saw her interest in the tiny melon seeds and took them and peeled them for her. Evelyn's features were all scrunched together. If she didn't peel it herself, did it have a soul? Zach explained in a low voice. This thing is too hard. Don't knock your teeth. Good boy. I will help you peel it. You are responsible for eating it. This person is treating himself as a national treasure. Knocking a melon can knock the teeth. Then this tooth is not much use. She waved her hand in a funereal manner. Forget it. Just eat it. The competition below continued. There were already 7 or 8 people who had passed the first level of unarmed rock climbing. Next, everyone needed to protect their bodies and cross the bombing zone. This level, there was some luck involved. The lucky ones might pass smoothly. The unlucky ones might be chased and bombed. The good thing is that they are all psychics with thick skin, so a few injuries and some blood is nothing. Evelyn looked carefully. Keenly saw Daniel. This kid is lucky, all the way as through no man's land. Originally ranked 10 outside. Hard to rely on good luck all the way to the top 3. Although he avoided being bombarded, but he ranked up, the others were not happy. All kinds of supernatural powers attacked towards him, all wanting to pull him down from the front. Daniel, of course, fought back, flames flaring indiscriminately at the others, the closer ones getting their hair and eyebrows blazed away, and he himself wasn't far behind, his body covered in wounds of all sizes. Evelyn frowned as she watched. She still liked Daniel. After all, he was the first person she had met when she came to this world. She had also thought about it for 3 days this time. Daniel had defended her when she hadn't revealed her identity in the beginning and was still weak. The guy had a somewhat childish temper, but he was also really handsome, and she had seen his body. It was kinda sexy. 2 piles of blush drifted to her cheeks at the thought, and she patted her head, throwing those yellow scraps out the window. It must have been a long time since she'd seen a man, that's why she was like this.